Yeah.
He took the cut.
Well, mine was 23 years, I believe, and he just said, I can't do it anymore, it's too much.
Yep. So anyhow, but the big thing, what you're seeing, there's not enough stink, there's not enough people that think that it matters to them. This is they're literally robbing your tax dollars from here. It's all going down there and it's gone. And if we continue spending the billions of dollars as a state, remember, cool cars, cool boats, the concertina wire, it's literally against the law for the federal agents to cut the concertina wire. We can't get a DA that's got balls that will prosecute one federal agent. And the thing is, the federal agents that are doing it are the supervisors. So they've got no union cover. It'd be actually right now the tax office is looking into some of the charges that we've got filed. I've actually physically filed charges against a couple of Border Patrol agents for cutting the wire. And I did that based upon the video that Greg Abbott posted on Twitter. And once they saw the government code that it was the chapter it was under, they were like, wait a second, you're onto something here. And it's because right now national security is up to the state of Texas. It's not up to the federal government. So,
Walter, can you talk a little bit about how once these illegal aliens enter into Texas, that then they are basically kind of like an indentured servant to the cartel? They don't cut them loose, and then they go on and live a happily ever after.
So not just the cartel, but you've got contractors, you've got furniture companies. I had a lady from Guatemala, Montgomery County. I had our police chief back in the day, a couple years ago when he was still chief, called and said, hey, can you come out? Lady from Guatemala, we were talking. She paid $20,000. Now, when I say that, she didn't pay cash. So she owes $20,000. That's 6% interest compounded daily. Anybody ever done their mortgage? That's literally over $1 million if you put it out there. There's a whole formula. If you put it into Google, the amortization rate, put it in there, you're supposed to put a couple extra numbers. But she literally said, I paid $20,000. It's compounded 6% interest daily. And I was like, 2 o'clock in the morning. What Spanish-speaking person spits out that kind of information from Guatemala that's coming here to work in a furniture factory? So they work in a furniture factory, then they live with 60 people in a house down the street. They pay $400 a month as their rent. Now remember, they get a piece of a floor for $400 a month or $400 a week. When I was in Harris County as a firefighter, a fire captain, we had a stash house, 77 people. That was in the mid-2000s while I was home from the Army. And we had a guy that had a dead body and a guy that was sick out in the they literally just drug him out to the street. So your problems in Harris County, they're coming this direction. I think the west end of y'all's county, y'all have probably seen a lot of that with the developments happening there. And then the newer developments are going to be coming here. I've already seen the price of land go through the roof over here. So especially anything on the bay. But bottom line is the state and the state party. So as Republicans, or if there's any Democrats in the room, literally the need is going to be, take care of your neighbor. Down there where I'm at with the Democrats, I like the Democrats down there for one reason, because the Republican Party is so weak down there. They only go down there for their money. The Border Health PAC, people like that. Look at some of our high-priced officials that are elected in the state. Those PACs that support those people, they go back and forth, a Democrat, Republican. They don't consider any certain ideology. I get along with Chuy Hinojosa, Senator Chuy Hinojosa, Eddie Lucio. He was about as Republican as they come, but he could never get elected as a Republican in this county. And in this county, Cameron County, that's probably one of the worst. I don't want to say the party because the people are great, but the management down there. So your party officials, SRECs, things like that. Those are some of the most left-leaning people we've got in the party. And they've been down there for years. It's literally the conservative cartel between there and Hidalgo County. Hidalgo County kicked out their chairman 2014 or so. They literally have not moved the needle, hardly any, since 2014, 2015. You want to know who their chairman was that kicked out? Javier Villalobos, the mayor of McAllen, the one that everyone internationally was like, oh my God, they elected a Republican mayor. He used to be the party chairman. And great guy. He can work with both factions, both sides, but he stays to the platform and to what we have here. And don't let me muddy those waters. Right now, the Democrat base, especially the elected officials in DC, your senators are the worst. So those are the folks you've got to watch out for. And then not just that, the numbers I just read to you, what you just saw happen, and I don't want to freak everybody out, but what you just saw happen in Israel, you know, that was not solidly Hamas, that was not solidly Hezbollah. I sat up with some soldiers and some intel guys for back over the weekend. We looked at that. That was most likely a lot of embedded Iranians, and all that practice that happened somewhere else that didn't happen in the Gaza Strip. They didn't learn how to fly those things. They didn't learn because they came from the ocean too. So that was a heavy military protocol. The Biden administration has not linked it back to the $6 billion that they gave back, and that was money that was confiscated. But it's not linked to that. But you're looking at trying to figure out what's happening here in America, because what happened in Israel, that was the United States of America back in the 1990s. That's the intelligence nightmare we had back then, and it just played out. So that was their 9/11, and they are, you know, both intelligence agencies, theirs and ours, missed all that. So those are the things to look at. On the trafficking, the child sex trafficking, you had the internet, the ICAT crimes, the internet crimes against children. That's a big issue. A lot of those things pop up from down there in Mexico. These cartels fund them. We have stash houses all around, not just here. You have them in a lot of East Texas counties. The colonias everyone's talking about, Liberty County. You've got stuff like that going on in Jasper, Beaumont. Those things are happening. That was just a very big spill. The fact that he was pretty heavily politically tied, that's going to be one of the issues you're going to see. A lot of that comes down to politics, but serious as a heart attack. It comes down to the fact that you had on the county level, they weren't watching. So whenever I listened to that interview today on Michael Barrett, softball all the way through, but if you listen to his numbers, the guy's making $500 million a year off of that little bit there. The city, ISD, they can't pass them on. Those people don't want to be responsible for building a school out there where he's giving it away for free, because they don't want that. They want someone else to take care of that. They threw it off on the county sheriff. Well, the county sheriff was probably behind the radar. That's his last name. So was a little bit behind the radar when we came in and all that stuff was happening. So the county judge up there, I know those guys personally. You know what? There's a reason why they're not running again. So, any questions on?
Walter, can you go into the NGOs a little bit more? The way I understand it, the reason why I'm asking is just going to tie into something later for us. But I want it to come from you and not me.
Right.
So the NGOs, the way I understand it, they are taxpayer funded as well as company funded. So when you go on the Catholic Charities website, you have a lot of Fortune 500 companies that are tied into the
So not only does Catholic Charities take a lot of company funding, if you go back into 2021, Harris County taxpayers, Rodney Ellis, Lena Hidalgo, Adrian Garcia, those were the three that were up there and voted against the two Republicans to fund Catholic Charities by $150 million. That's Harris County. So think of if your county did that to a substantial equivalent. That was $150 million just from there. Think about all of the sanctuary cities around the nation that are doing the same thing. Okay, and then think about the Fortune 500 companies doing it, the electrical companies. And it's only the charitable thing to do because they want to throw Bible verses at you and all that. But remember, Nehemiah, they built a wall. Okay, they did that for national sovereignty on purpose. Okay, and it's biblical. So yeah, it's biblical to help out a neighbor. But remember, our tax dollars through the Department of State, the liberal Department of State, doesn't matter if Trump was in office, or Bush was in office, or Obama was in office, much less Biden. Our Department of State has taken our tax dollars and funded the corruption in other countries, and they've given the money to these NGOs that hand it out to the top dog, to the cartel guys. That's where your tax dollars go. That's how it gets down there to those people. It's not like we're just cutting a check to the country. So those people down there, the dons of the Department of State, they're the ones who hand out our tax dollars. Once it becomes unbearable, guess what those people do? We're going to go to America, and they're getting funded. They're getting funded by Soros-leaning organizations that are funded that way. They're getting, they're using State Department. I've watched people in Guatemala, they'll stand in line and it's, hey, we're gonna go to Disney, we want a visa. And the whole time they're sitting there, they're talking about how we're gonna go to Disney, and as soon as we land in Orlando, what's gonna happen? Bam, we're off to New York. They overstay their visa.
Walter, you had said earlier about counties are not paying attention. What can we in Chambers County do? What do we look for? What can we do?
So your county commissioners, constables, and sheriff, look at where, at district attorney, look at where the money's going, okay? Look at what they can and can't prosecute, look at what they can and can't charge. Remember, your sheriff, beyond what the governor wants to tell you, your sheriff is the highest dollar bill in the land. The sheriff can actually tell the Department of Public Safety, as long as there's no corruption, you don't have to have a highway patrolman. It sounds like right now you've only got one, so, and this is Chambers County. I mean, you know how many millions of people are driving by weekly on I-10?
Yeah.
So I don't know how many that is a day, but the stuff that you guys have got there, when I was in Harris County with Port of Houston, what we were doing with Harris County Sheriff's Department there, I was worked with the liaison, the Port Liaison Division, the Industrial Liaison Division. Those guys work with all the petrochems, which you're getting here in Chambers County. They have taken millions of federal tax dollars. And a lot of those were earmarked for here in the early 2000s, before Pop Firm came in, a little bit after, the FedEx plane. I think I remember seeing an airboat or two that may have been federal. Those big boats that came in from Harris County, that was all federal monies. And where does Chambers County, where's your county line at? If you drive to Harris County, go to Morgan's Point, and you walk out in the water 60 feet, that's Chambers County. All of the boat traffic in the ship channel that's on the upper end, that comes through Chambers County. That's y'all's. Y'all could be making that money.
We're about to be having more. They're gonna try to open a port up in Beach City.
Yep, no. Those are things that you're behind the times on. They should have done that 10, 15 years ago. So, because if you really look at it, Texas is its own economy. Globally, it's its own economy. And right now, with the Israel, what you're seeing with the Israel situation, and the Iranian thing's and the Egyptians are gonna kick up, the Saudis are gonna do their thing. So you're gonna see an oil crunch. And if you saw today when Kirby, Admiral, whatever name, John Kirby, yeah, he used to be in a Navy outfit, so he was one of the village people. So if you see him talking, he was specifically asking, are we gonna ramp up oil production? Well, my question is, why hasn't Greg Abbott? I'd say at this point, forget the feds. Because the feds have relinquished our border. We physically have seen our Texas National Guard, not the Ohio National Guard, not the South Dakota National Guard, not the federal funded National Guard, but the Texas Military Department. They have repelled people. And when you see the DPS trooper that gets on PBS and says, oh, they made a 4-year-old cross back across the river. That's not the case. Okay? That's some bleeding heart liberal DPS trooper that is going to go write a book and is ready to get out of the troopership. If you'll notice, recruiting in the DPS, all-time low ever right now, because nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to leave their house for the 2 weeks they got to go down. Bottom line is, our Texas folks, so what needs to be a border unit, literally is doing their job. When they put the concertina wire up, that's not to say, oh, here, throw a blanket over it and go. The federal agents are cutting it, letting people in. That's actually a violation of federal law. Those agents are committing a felony. Both federally, because they're abdicating their constitutional responsibilities, and both on the state side, because they're damaging state property. And it actually falls under sedition and sabotage in Chapter 557.
How much involvement do you think China has in a lot of these things that we're hearing? I read yesterday that China now owns Forbes and GE, and I think there were 16 other major companies in the United States that we basically can't live without, or we don't think we can. And within the last 6 months, our county commissioners gave tax abatements to a company solely owned by China to
So about China. So what role does China play? 14,000 square foot warehouse that your commissioner's court approved or gave a tax abatement to. So if you heard Matt Gates, don't worry about the McCarthy thing. I'm not going to bring it up. But Matt Gates basically made the statement: our GDP is 5 trillion, but we're spending 7. The Ukrainian war is bleeding us dry. So what are we going to do? We're going to go borrow money from China. Okay, that literally is what the federal Congress is doing. They're borrowing money from China. Who owns most of the notes on the banks now? The bonds. Those are all Chinese backed. This is what they did in Africa, South America. So, I mean, literally the Chinese, and remember, the Flying Tigers, we helped them out right there prior to World War II. So, this is what we get. We didn't pay attention, didn't see it coming. I can promise you, I have been to some of the businesses in South Texas. They have the Chinese triad on the doors. So those are Chinese sponsored game rooms. The 8-liners, the illegal casinos that are down there that the Democrats are doing nothing about. We've only got one good Democrat sheriff. Well, on the board, we've only got one good Democrat sheriff. Hopefully we'll get a Republican in Starr County, because that guy's kid just surrendered himself to federal drug trafficking charges, and they've had 2 sheriffs in the past 4 decades that have been arrested. And matter of fact, the sheriff that was arrested and was released after serving his federal sentence, he still lives in the best looking mansion in Starr County.
Got
So
above valley politics.
yeah. Well, and that's the Upper Valley. That's above Hidalgo County. So the key is the Chinese. If you go look at the Facebook pages of several of the government officials, the governors and whatnot that have their infomercials on Facebook, Instagram, and they do the whole, we have a water shortage in Mexico, so here's how we're going to do it. A Chinese guy that speaks perfect Spanish gets on and starts talking about technology. Does that tell you something? When the governor of a state in Mexico steps to the side of the Chinese guy that speaks perfect Spanish steps in there, bam, that should tell you something. So when Governor Abbott declared an invasion, he did it under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3. He did it because the federal government has abdicated their responsibilities. Now, he's not declaring war, but look at the violence that we've got in Tamaulipas across from Laredo. Look at the fact that on video, we get sent videos of people having their hearts cut out while it's pumping. And they put it on the video, they kick it around, they kick their heads around, they decapitate. We've had IEDs. The island that the DPS just went in and took over. I was talking to the border czar, and I've been on that island. It's around Roma. There's 170 acres. I thought it was 130 acres, but either way. They said it was 170 acres. They took it over, cut it down, chopped it up. There were IEDs on that island in the Rio Grande. So think of 170 acres where the river goes around it. Now the international side's over here. So what would you think? Close the water off over here, put it back on land, they're probably going to build a wall through there. I think Don Buckingham confiscated that land, or enough of it is the state's land. So bottom line is, our state is having to react and do for the nation. We might as well get it done at a cheaper rate for a longer lasting time where we can do it. Because since Rick Perry's been in office, I know we've blown $20 billion on the border. And remember, whenever our troopers go down there to stay in a hotel, they're not paying taxes. That's a state deal. So how much is anybody know what the tax rate for hotel taxes are here?
3%.
What's that?
3%. I mean, they pay the county 3%.
On top of the 8.25, the 825, right?
Yes.
Okay, so think about that. Those local economies are losing out on that money that could be going for things. Eagle Pass, the federal government closed one bridge. Then they're requiring 6-month-old and 10-month-old babies to be carried under. They know they're going to bring them in. Why are we putting people in a position to die, like our National Guardsmen from 2 years ago? Why are we putting those people in a position of harm? If we're going to let them in, let them walk across the bridge. The problem is Eagle Pass loses money. 50% of the city's budget is based upon the toll on the bridges, whether it's foot traffic or car traffic. And when we shut the bridges down, we shut down commerce. Oh, that's gonna hit them in the pocketbook, right? You forget about the commerce from here that takes 3 or 4 hours to get over there, and when they're returning, we still have to pay for those people who have to wait in line for 40 hours or 30 hours before they can cross back. And what's the cartel doing over there? Give me $100, we won't slash your tires. So we're just hurting our own people because our number one trade partner in Texas, our small businesses, it's Mexico. So we're just hurting ourselves.
You know, a lot of people see what's going on the board, but they don't think it's gonna affect them. When you tell people that have kids and grandkids in school what's going on in Cleveland, what I'm hearing is going on starting delivery now. You know, with the full hauls, fentanyl contact, and it's the whole 9 yards.
So, well, the largest methamphetamine bust was in Liberty County, the DEA's ever had. That was Liberty County a couple of years ago or last year. The fentanyl, I used to use that. We used to prescribe that out in the U.S. Army. It's been around for about 20 years. There's a synthetic, which obviously comes from China. They do manufacture some in Mexico. They caught a place that was a pill mill here in Houston earlier or later last year. But yeah, it's just a couple of grains is enough to. All it does is shuts down your drive, your autonomic nervous system. It shuts it down. You can no longer breathe because all that closes off, and so people can die. That's why they're issuing Narcan. They've had 15 deaths at Cleveland High School this year alone, is what I understand. And that's 15 deaths too many. Look at how many fentanyl. If you look at the Angel families used to be just from illegal alien crimes, DUIs, domestic. The Orpeza murder that was down there, that guy was returned. He was returned 4 times, crossed over the 5th and was hanging out. He was found in my county. Matter of fact, he was found because the FBI turned on their stinger and could figure out what the sister was saying, or whoever that was, the ex-wife was saying that was with her. And the ex-wife is the one who filed criminal charges on him. So he physically had a warrant for his arrest. But you're talking about an illegal alien that was able to have a firearm. Okay. And what happened in Israel? Once they disarmed everybody, what you saw this weekend. Those folks, I used to go over, the coolest thing, some of the hottest chicks in the IDF ever, we'd go to a coffee shop, they'd have their Uzi hanging, you're like, I mean, we weren't allowed to carry it. We were guests of the country, but they were. And bam, apparently that's not, I didn't know that they disarmed their population, but they did. Look what happened in Australia. Look what happened in Europe. So these are the things you need to be looking at. With what's happening with the illegals and the children up here, it's a different culture altogether. You've got kids that are sicarios, killers, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. You've got kids that the federal government hasn't tested. Is that your child? They're being raised. And guess what? That's not that kid's child. We caught on one of our videos, Lukeville, Arizona. If you ever see anybody hashtag border wars, and then Border Network News is Anthony Aguero Live. You can follow him because he just goes out there, sets a camera up, and talks to people to ask them where they're from. So our intelligence agencies are getting information off of his Twitter, Rumble, YouTube, all that stuff. He caught a child predator groping a child right there in the line, and Border Patrol agents were like, "Oh, we didn't see that." They removed the girl, and when they pulled the girl away from the dad, they said, "Hey, can you come with us?" She never ever looked back. She walked to the other side of the van. The border agent sat there talking to her. She was good. That guy literally sat there groping that girl the whole entire time, was thrusting into her while he was waiting. Total sex predator right there at 2 o'clock in the morning in Lukeville, Arizona. And when you talk to, who's Mark Lamb running against? Damn it. Kelly something. Carrie something, not Carrie Lakeman, so the current incumbent and Mark Kelly, those are the ones that want to tell you, oh, they're just coming here for a better life. Well, half of them are coming for a better life. Half of them have been programmed to take what you need to get. And that hasn't happened yet, luckily, but if you look at what's happening in the Cleveland schools, you got bleed over here. Highway 99 is a traffic route. Watch what happens with 99. I know they're paying a toll for it, but They get on up there, they get off up here, they can move into Houston, they can drive out, they can circle back around. The 99 to Grand Parkway, may have been a good idea at first, but now we're seeing where if we don't take care of our county, especially Chambers County, you're gonna end up like Montgomery County. And Montgomery County is not a hellhole yet, but on East Montgomery County, up against the colonies and all that stuff, yeah, our ambulances have to, whenever they go to do mutual aid over there, they physically have to wait for law enforcement to take them into Liberty County. So,
the colony piece that's been on the forefront of the news for a lot of.
Colony Ridge, yeah.
Colony Ridge specifically. The name John Harris has been thrown around a lot. Can you explain who John Harris is?
so he's the brother of Trey Harris, he's the fun guy. They're developers that, of Colony Ridge. They basically have got a business model that does allow them to owner finance properties. I was listening to the Trey Harris interview. I actually thought it was a very good interview for him. Because he was able to spit out, we don't have this state law, we don't have